Hello students, so today's demonstration will be about the intrinsic muscles of hand in various mounted specimens, and I will also be showing you the branches of the ulnar nerve in hand. So starting with the most superficial muscles. Now this is the left hand. You are seeing these are the thinner muscles. Now the lateral most one is the abductor pollicis brevis. This thinner one is the flexor pollicis brevis. Opponens pollicis lies deeper to them on a deeper aspect, and here you are seeing the transverse head of the adductor pollicis, right? So where do the flexor pollicis brevis and the abductor pollicis brevis insert? They insert over the lateral aspect of base of the proximal phalanx of the thumb, whereas the adductor pollicis inserts over the medial aspect of the base of the proximal phalanx of the thumb, right? So and opponens pollicis inserts over the entire length of the first metacarpal. Same goes for opponens digiti minimi, that inserts over most of the length of the fifth metacarpal, whereas here again you can see the muscles of hypothenar eminence. This is the flexor digiti minimi and this is the abductor digiti minimi. Both are inserting over the medial aspect of base of the proximal phalanx of the little finger, right? So these are the hypothenar muscles. Opponens digiti minimi again lies on a deeper plane as compared to abductor digiti minimi and flexor digiti minimi. Another thing that you can see in this specimen here is this is the ulnar nerve, and here it has this is the palmar cutaneous branch, and then the ulnar nerve itself, here it will be dividing into the proper palmar digital branch for medial aspect of the little finger and the common palmar digital branch for the adjacent aspects of the ring finger and the little finger. I will be showing you these in subsequent specimen. And then this one is, you can guess, this is the ulnar artery. Okay, moving on to the next specimen. Now this specimen is of the right hand. Right, here you can see what is visible here is the palmar aponeurosis, the palmaris longus. Deep to them, this structure is this one. This is the flexor retinaculum, right? And what you can see here again, the ulnar artery and the ulnar nerve, they are passing superficial to the flexor retinaculum. However, you do not, these are the branches of median nerve. You cannot see median nerve passing superficial to the flexor retinaculum because it passes deep to the retinaculum via the carpal tunnel. Here you can very clearly see the ulnar nerve's superficial branch giving the common palmar digital branch for the medial aspect of little finger, and this is the proper palmar digital branch. This is the common palmar digital branch, which is meant for, it will divide into the proper palmar digital branches for lateral aspect of little finger and medial aspect of ring finger. And again, this is the ulnar artery, and its superficial branch will form the continuation, will form the superficial palmar arch, whereas the deep branch of ulnar artery will complete medially the deep palmar arch, right? Again you can see the hypothenar muscles. This is the abductor digiti minimi and the some part of flexor digiti minimi, and these are the thinner muscles. This is the abductor pollicis brevis, this is the flexor pollicis brevis, and these are branches of the median nerve, superficial cutaneous branches. Then moving on to the next specimen. Now this specimen is again of the left hand. Here we can see very clearly the deep branch of ulnar nerve. This is the deep branch of ulnar nerve, which to visualize which we have to remove all the long flexor tendons. This you can see is the tendon of flexor digitorum superficialis, which divides into these two parts through which the flexor digitorum profundus tendon passes. So we have removed all those long flexor tendons and the superficial and the deep palmar arches, and then we can see the deep branch of ulnar nerve. This is going to supply, it is supplying here the interossei. You can see the branches going to the interossei. These are the dorsal and the palmar interossei lying in the intermetacarpal spaces. right? So this is the deep branch of ulnar nerve which passes medial to the hook of hamate. Somewhere here is the hook of hamate. So deep branch of ulnar nerve hooks around that thing. Then we move to the next specimen. Now this here, this again is a specimen of the right hand with the fingers pointing downwards, more so in an anatomical position, placed in an anatomical position. Now have a look at which tendons you can see. These tendons, since they are reaching the terminal phalanges, this is the tendon of flexor digitorum profundus. Flexor digitorum superficialis has been removed in this specimen. Now focus at these little muscles which are taking origin from the tendon, whereas inserting going towards the dorsal aspect of the digit. So this is the first lumbrical, this is the second lumbrical, this is the third lumbrical, and this is the fourth lumbrical, which each of them take origin from the lateral aspect of the flexor digitorum profundus tendon, meant for the index finger, the middle finger, the ring finger, and the little finger. From the FDP tendon of index finger, first lumbrical arises, and so on. Right, so these are the lumbrical muscles. Now here we have removed all the other tendons. Interossei have also been removed, so you can visualize the lumbricals very clearly. In another specimen, now this specimen is of the left hand, right, again placed in an anatomical position, but here you can see the tendon of flexor digitorum superficialis is there because it is dividing into two, right. Flexor digitorum profundus is also there because it is passing through these tendons. And then if we have a look, now this is the index finger, so we look at the tendon FDP for the index finger. This is the first lumbrical, right. Similarly, this one is the second lumbrical. Third lumbrical is not clearly visible in this one. It might have been removed, might not have been present. Sometimes one of the lumbricals might be very small, might even be absent. And this is the fourth lumbrical. Now just to revise the nerve supply of lumbricals, the first and the second lumbrical, because they are placed laterally, they are supplied by median nerve, whereas the third and the fourth lumbricals, because they are placed medially, the first and the second lumbricals are placed laterally, and the third and the fourth lumbricals, because they are placed medially, they are supplied by the deep branch of the ulnar nerve. Right, now coming to the next specimen, this is a specimen of the left hand, again with the the fingers pointing upwards. These are just the proximal phalanges, these are the metacarpals, right, and these are the proximal phalanges. What you can see here, these are some muscles. Now because they are not taking origin from any tendon, we know that these are interossei. These are taking origin from either the lateral aspect of the metacarpal or from the medial aspect of the metacarpal, but all of these are unipinnate. And what kind of movement will they cause? Just look at this muscle. This one, if it contracts, it is going to pull the little finger laterally. If this muscle contracts, this is going to pull the ring finger again laterally towards the middle finger. So these two muscles are going to cause adduction of the ring finger and of the little finger. Same goes for this muscle and this muscle. If this contracts, this is going to pull the index finger towards the middle finger. If this one contracts, this is going to pull the thumb towards the middle finger. So this kind of movement is again adduction in case of index finger. For a moment forget about the thumb. So adduction of the index, ring and little fingers is caused by the palmar interossei. So this is ideally what happens is that this interosseous muscle is not present. This is the first palmar interosseous, this is the second, and this is the third palmar interosseous, and the middle finger has no palmar interosseous because it cannot be adducted, it can only be abducted. In this case the first palmar interosseous is also present. Sometimes it is present in case of the thumb also, right? So all the palmar interossei, whether 3 or 4, they are always unipinnate, and all of them are supplied by the deep branch of the ulnar nerve. Now moving on to the next specimen. Now have a look at this specimen. This is a specimen of the right hand, Now have a look at, should I show you through this thing from this view? This view is better, right? Now these muscles, first of all this one, then this one, then this one, and then this one, you can see that all of them are occupying the totality of the intermetacarpal spaces. This muscle is taking origin from the first metacarpal and from the second metacarpal also. This one is taking origin from second as well as third metacarpal. This one is taking origin from third as well as fourth, and this one is taking origin from fourth as well as fifth metacarpal. So all of these muscles are bipinnate. Which muscles are, all of them are bipinnate, and where are they going to insert? They go towards the dorsal aspect. Let me see if that is visible. Now the first dorsal interosseous, here you can see that is passing and inserting towards the lateral aspect of dorsal digital expansion of the index finger. So it will cause which movement of the index finger? So if it is inserting somewhere here over the lateral aspect of dorsal digital expansion, it will move the index finger laterally, so abduction of the index finger. Same goes for second dorsal interosseous, it is inserting over lateral aspect of the base of the triangle of dorsal digital expansion of middle finger. So second dorsal interosseous is going to pull the middle finger laterally, again causing its radial abduction. Third interosseous is inserting over the medial aspect of basolateral angle of dorsal digital expansion of middle finger, so it will cause ulnar abduction of the middle finger. And the fourth interosseous, that is inserting over medial aspect of dorsal digital expansion of the ring finger, so it will, on contracting, it will pull the ring finger medially and hence cause its abduction. So index finger abduction is towards lateral side. Middle finger can undergo radial abduction laterally, or it can undergo ulnar abduction medially, and the ring finger can undergo abduction towards the medial aspect. So these are all the dorsal interossei, and they are also again supplied by the deep branch of the ulnar nerve. Then what passes through the first dorsal interosseous is the radial artery, right? And then we come to, last of all, this muscle. You should be able to guess. We had done one muscle which has two heads. One is the transverse head and one is the oblique head, and it inserts over the medial aspect of base of the proximal phalanx of the thumb. This is a specimen of the right hand. This is the first metacarpal, second metacarpal, third metacarpal, fourth and fifth metacarpals, while this is the proximal phalanx of the thumb. So this muscle is the adductor hallucis, right? And this inserts over medial aspect of base of the proximal phalanx of thumb, right? So all the intrinsic muscles of thumb except which ones? The abductor pollicis brevis, flexor pollicis brevis, superficial head of flexor pollicis brevis, and opponens pollicis. And the first and the second lumbricals, they are supplied, these ones are supplied by median nerve. All the other intrinsic muscles are supplied by deep branch of the ulnar nerve, right? Okay, then something about tests to identify injury of the ulnar nerve in hand. Now we know that deep branch of ulnar nerve is going to supply palmar and dorsal interossei. So what do dorsal interossei cause? Abduction of these middle three fingers, right? So abduction, middle finger can be moved to left or right side, ring finger can be moved medially, and index finger should be moved laterally. So we know that these dorsal interossei are working. And in case of the index, ring and little fingers, if we know, we can adduct them towards the middle finger, right? Then we know that their palmar interossei are working. So ulnar nerve, wherever it might be injured, whether at the thoracic outlet or in the arm or in the elbow or in the forearm or at the wrist, these muscles are always going to get affected because these are the last ones to be supplied. Palmar interossei, dorsal interossei, and the lumbricals. What happens in case of paralysis of lumbricals? The action of lumbricals is to do this movement of the fingers with flexion at metacarpophalangeal joint, extension at the interphalangeal joints. If lumbricals are paralyzed, what will happen is, because of unopposed action of the flexor digitorum profundus and superficialis, but paralysis of lumbricals and interossei, there will be extension at the metacarpophalangeal joint but flexion at the interphalangeal joint. So resting position of the hand will become this. This is called as the ulnar claw hand, right? In addition to that, there will be, obviously, if the ulnar nerve is injured somewhere in the region of, suppose, the elbow or above it, before, that is proximal to where it gives its nerve supply to the flexor digitorum profundus, the medial half, and flexor carpi ulnaris. So if it is injured proximal to giving those branches, then even the FDP, for in case of this ring and the little fingers, that will be involved. How will you test that? You hold the proximal and the middle phalanges of the patient, and then you ask them to flex the distal most phalange or the distal interphalangeal joint. If the patient is unable to do that, that means the FDP for that particular finger is paralyzed. Same goes for little finger. Patient should be unable to do this thing, flex only the distal interphalangeal joint if the ulnar nerve is paralyzed proximal to giving branches to the FDP. If flexor carpi ulnaris is paralyzed, what is going to happen is, normally we ask the patient to flex their wrist. What has happened? Normal. Okay? The wrist does not deviate to the radial or to the ulnar side. Why? Because of balanced action of flexor carpi radialis and flexor carpi ulnaris. Now in case of flexor carpi ulnaris is paralyzed, if you ask the patient to flex their wrist, it will get abducted also. Normal movement would be this. Whereas in case of FCU paralysis, the wrist will, slightly go in the radial direction also along with flexion, right? Okay. And plus there will be one thing I forgot to tell you is, again, the region of this is the region somewhere here is the region of the Guyon's canal, right? Lateral to somewhere here is the pisiform bone, and this is covered by the superficial carpal palmar ligament, palmar carpal ligament, and through that Guyon's canal the ulnar nerve and the ulnar artery pass. Okay, then another test. Now this thing, to test the abduction and adduction, we can ask the patient to hold a card, like we give the patient a visiting card and we ask them to hold vertically between these two fingers, and we ask them to hold it tightly while we try to remove the card from between the fingers. If the patient is able to do that, that means his palmar interossei and dorsal interossei, dorsal interosseous for the middle finger and palmar interosseous for the index finger, they are working correctly, and so the ulnar nerve is not injured. So that is called as the cards test, right? Then there is another test called as the pen test. In that, what we do is ask the patient to keep their hand on the table like this, then we suspend a pen like this just above their thumb, right? Now I am holding the mobile in one of my hands. I cannot keep holding this pen like this. Just imagine this pen is here and the patient is asked to bring the tip of his thumb to touch the pen like this, right? In case, so this is which movement of the thumb? This is abduction, right? So the abductor pollicis brevis and longus are tested. Basically the median nerve is being tested with this thing, right? So this is also called as the pen test. Then there is another test called as the Froment's test or the Froment sign, in which we test the adduction of the thumb. What we do is, suppose, imagine this is the edge of a book. We ask the patient to hold the book between their fingers and their thumb. So here the adduction power is being used. So if their ulnar nerve is intact, then the patient will use his adductor pollicis to grab the book. However, if their ulnar nerve is injured and the adductor pollicis is paralyzed, then what will happen is patient will use their flexor pollicis longus. So the interphalangeal joint of the thumb will undergo bending, and flexor pollicis longus is now being used to hold the book. So this is a positive Froment's sign. This is Froment's test and this is a positive Froment's sign. right? So we have a card test to check the palmar and dorsal interossei. We can also just ask the patient to do this movement of the fingers to check. Then there is the pen test to check the abductor muscles, and then there is the Froment's test to check the adductor pollicis, right? Okay, thank you.